Good evening, all, and thank you for tuning in to tonight's story. If you enjoy it, please remember to subscribe and like the video so we can continue bringing you more horror stories. Now, without further ado, take a deep breath and relax as we take a journey through the night. The app was called ClearMind. Ethan discovered it late one night while scrolling through an endless stream of meaningless posts. His screen time tracker had sent a notification earlier. 6 hours on his phone today alone. Disgusted, he'd search for ways to focus better, and ClearMind had been the first result. Remove distractions from your life. That was its only description. No reviews, no developer information. Just a sleek, minimalist logo, a single empty circle. Something about it was unsettling, but exhaustion dulled his caution. He tapped download. The installation was instant. No loading bar, no confirmation pop-ups. His phone buzzed in his hand, and the app's simple interface appeared. A black screen with a single button labeled Begin. Ethan hesitated, then pressed it. The app vanished, seemingly closing on its own. No home screen icon, no menu options. Just gone. He sighed, tossing his phone onto the nightstand. Whatever, he'd look at it tomorrow. Day 1. The first change was small. Ethan's commute was usually clogged with honking cars, pedestrians glued to their screens, and endless construction noise. But today the roads were clear. Not empty, just smooth. No one cut him off. No one walked in front of his car without looking. Even the usual roadside distractions, billboards, flashing store signs, seemed subdued, as if someone had dialed down their brightness. At work, his cubicle mate, Jared, was nowhere to be seen. Good. Jared was loud, always drumming his fingers on the desk or humming under his breath. Annoying as hell. When Ethan asked where he was, their manager just blinked. Who? Jared, the guy who sits next to me. The manager frowned. That desk has been empty for months. Ethan opened his mouth to argue but stopped. Maybe he'd misheard. Maybe Jared had quit and he'd just forgotten. Either way, his morning was more productive than usual. No interruptions, no distractions. Day 3. He didn't realize something was off until his barista failed to greet him. Every morning, Ethan ordered the same thing. A large coffee, no sugar. The barista, a chatty woman named Mia, always had it ready before he even reached the counter. Today the coffee was there, but she wasn't. He peered around. The cafe felt emptier, not deserted, but lighter somehow, like a crowd thinned out just enough to feel unnatural. When he asked another employee where Mia was, they just shrugged. Never had anyone by that name here. A cold weight settled in his stomach. He checked his phone, searching for ClearMind. Nothing. No icon. No settings menu. He scrolled through his app list twice. It wasn't there. But something had changed. He could feel it. Day 5. His friends stopped responding. Texts that usually got immediate replies now sat unread. Calls rang endlessly. When he checked social media, his contacts list had shrunk. At first, he thought they'd unfriended him. Then he noticed something else. Posts mentioning them were gone. Photos that had once included their faces now showed gaps, as if someone had erased them from the frame. He typed out a message to his best friend, Mark. "Hey, you there?" No response. Ethan opened his gallery. There were dozens of pictures from last summer, a beach trip, a night out. Mark's birthday party. One by one, he tapped them open. Mark was missing from every single one. Panic clawed at Ethan's chest. He remembered Mark. They'd grown up together. They'd spent weekends gaming, drinking, laughing. He knew Mark existed, but there was no proof. Day 7, his mother didn't answer the phone. Neither did his father. His sister's number was suddenly not in service. Ethan drove to their house, tires screeching as he pulled into the driveway. The lights were off. The door was locked. He pounded on it. "Mom! Dad!" No answer. He circled to the back, peering through the windows. The living room was still furnished, but something was off. Things were too neat, as if no one had lived there for years. When he checked the mailbox, only his name was on it. No trace of his parents, not even an old letter addressed to them. His family was gone. Day 10. Ethan barely left his apartment. He sat in front of his laptop, scouring the internet for anything on Clearmind. Still nothing. No reviews, no forums. No one talking about it. His reflection in the dark screen stared back at him, hollow-eyed, unshaven. How many people had disappeared? How many had he forgotten already? A notification popped up, a single message from an unknown sender. Ready for the next step? His hands trembled as he typed a response. "Who are you? What's happening?" 3 dots appeared, then vanished. No reply. Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. He grabbed his phone and dug through the settings, searching for factory reset options. He pressed the button, confirmed it. A loading bar appeared, then a message flashed on the screen. "Error. App cannot be deleted." He threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall with a dull thud and fell to the floor, screen intact. Day 12. Ethan stepped outside for the first time in days. The city was quiet. No car horns, no conversations, no movement. The streets weren't empty. Not exactly. There were still people walking, still figures behind windows. But when he looked closer, their faces were blurred. Their features shifted, unfocused, like smudged charcoal sketches. He ran to a woman standing at a crosswalk. "Please," he begged, grabbing her arm. "Tell me your name." She turned, but there was nothing. No eyes, no mouth. Just smooth, featureless skin where her face should be. Ethan staggered back, bile rising in his throat. He turned to the next person, and the next. They were all the same. His stomach lurched as he sprinted home, heart hammering. He locked the door, pressed his back against it, gasping. His phone buzzed. Final step confirmed. He stared at the message, hands shaking. The room felt heavier, the air thinner. A deep, crushing pressure settled on his chest. He tried to move, to breathe, but his body refused to obey. He looked down at his hands. They were fading, his fingers blurred at the edges, dissolving like mist in sunlight. The world around him dimmed. His thoughts fragmented, slipping like sand through grasping fingers. Memories unraveled, faces erasing, voices vanishing into nothing. And then silence somewhere else. A new app appeared in the store. Clearmind. Remove distractions from your life. A man named David, scrolling aimlessly late at night, blinked at the listing. His screen time tracker had just sent him a notification. 6 hours on his phone today alone. Sighing, he tapped download. The first box arrived on a quiet Friday evening. Emma had almost forgotten about the subscription. A targeted ad had caught her attention weeks ago. Personalized mystery boxes, curated just for you. She had signed up on a whim, filling out a questionnaire about her interests, books, puzzles, small trinkets. The company promised surprise and delight with every delivery. Lifting the small cardboard package from her doorstep, she brought it inside, excitement bubbling. She peeled back the packing tape and unfolded the flaps. Inside, nestled in crinkled brown paper, was a novel she had been meaning to read, a handcrafted wooden puzzle, and a smooth, polished stone with her initials engraved into it. A shiver of satisfaction ran down her spine. The items were almost too perfect, as if the box had been assembled by someone who knew her intimately. She chalked it up to good marketing research. The second box came a week later. Emma had expected another pleasant surprise, but when she opened it, she felt an odd pull in her chest. Inside lay a single glove, one she had lost months ago on a rainy night. She recognized it instantly. Navy wool, a slight tear along the thumb where she had snagged it on a fence. Next to it was an earring, a silver hoop from a set she had long since given up searching for. Her stomach tightened. How had they found these? The website never asked for her personal history. Maybe she had mentioned losing the glove to a friend and forgotten. Maybe the company scoured social media for clues. Still, an uneasy feeling settled over her as she closed the box. The third box left her hands shaking. This time, it contained her old student ID from college, one she had lost years ago in another city. The edges were still worn, the small crack along the bottom right corner exactly as she remembered. Beneath it, tucked between the folds of brown paper, lay a single Polaroid. It was a picture of her apartment door, taken recently. Emma's breath came fast and shallow. She checked the return address on the package, but it was the same generic warehouse listed on the company's website. There was no sender name, no way to trace who had handled the box before it reached her hands. She considered canceling the subscription, but curiosity, laced with a nervous edge, made her hesitate. Instead, she set the box aside and double-checked the locks on her doors and windows. The fourth box arrived 3 days later. Emma sat staring at it for a long time before opening it. Her hands felt numb as she pulled back the flaps. Inside was a key, her spare apartment key. She had kept it hidden in a small taped compartment at the bottom of her kitchen drawer. No one else had a copy. Her vision blurred as panic clawed its way through her chest. Someone had been inside her home. A folded note rested beneath the key. Almost time. Emma dropped the box, breath coming in ragged gasps. Her mind raced through every possibility. An elaborate prank, a stalker, something she had overlooked. But the truth settled in, suffocating and undeniable. They weren't sending her things she had lost. They were sending her things they were about to take. Emma barely slept. Every creak of her apartment sent her bolting upright, heart pounding. She pushed furniture against the doors, kept a kitchen knife beside her bed. Every time she closed her eyes, she imagined hands reaching for the lock, her own key turning against her. When the next package arrived, she didn't want to open it, but she had to. This time there was no paper filler, no attempt at presentation, just a single object sitting in the bottom of the box. Her phone, the one she had placed on her nightstand before going to bed. A fresh note was taped to the screen. Tonight. Emma ran. She grabbed her keys, the real ones, and bolted for the door. The hall outside was empty, but she knew she wasn't alone. Something had been watching, waiting. She didn't stop until she reached her car, peeling out of the parking lot without a destination in mind. She just needed distance, space to think. When she finally pulled into a hotel parking lot, heart hammering, she checked her phone, the one from the box. There were no messages, no calls, but the camera roll had a new photo, It was taken from her bedroom doorway. She was in the frame, asleep, completely unaware. A final message appeared on the screen. No refunds. The notification arrived late at night, glowing against the darkness of Emily's bedroom. A friend request from someone familiar, yet nameless in her mind. The profile picture showed a man, his face just slightly turned away, eyes obscured by shadow. The name David Calloway sparked no clear memory. She hesitated. Maybe they had met at a work event. A friend of a friend. Curiosity won over caution. She accepted. Minutes later, a message appeared. "Do you remember me?" A chill crept up her spine. There was something unsettling about the phrasing, the way it implied she should. Emily stared at the name, trying to summon a connection, but her mind remained blank. Not really. "Should I?" she typed back. The response came fast. "You will." She closed the app, trying to shake off the unease. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe she was overthinking. The next morning, another notification, a tag. David Calloway had posted an old photo of her. Emily stood in a crowd at a college event years ago. She didn't remember the picture being taken, had no idea who had been behind the camera. Her phone buzzed again, a private message. "You were smiling at me. I never forgot." The words sat heavy in her chest. She clicked on his profile, scrolling through his photos. None of them looked familiar, but the locations, her old campus, her favorite cafe, even the street outside her childhood home, sent ice through her veins. Had he been there all along? She tried to unfriend him. An error message appeared. Action cannot be completed. Her phone rang. Unknown caller. Her breath hitched. The call went to voicemail. The message was just breathing, slow and steady, as if someone stood just outside her door, waiting. Emily locked her phone, heart pounding. She checked the apartment door, making sure the deadbolt was in place. Curtains drawn, no signs of movement outside, but the unease refused to fade. She barely slept. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant hum of traffic sent her mind spiraling. The next morning, another notification, a new photo. It was her front door, taken from the hallway. Emily's hands trembled as she typed a response. "Who are you?" Seconds later, a reply. "You let me in once. You'll do it again." She bolted from her bed, grabbed her phone, and called the police. An officer arrived within 20 minutes, a stocky man with tired eyes. He listened as she explained everything. The messages, the photos, the strange name that meant nothing to her. He took notes, nodded, then asked, "Have you ever had a stalker before?" "Not that I know of." "And you're sure you don't recognize this name?" "Number, I swear." He tapped at his notepad. "We'll look into it. In the meantime, change your passwords and don't engage." Emily nodded, though dread curled in her stomach. Would that even help? That night, another message arrived. "Why did you call them?" "They won't help." Attached was a new photo, a shot of her, taken through her bedroom window. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She stumbled away from the window, yanking the curtain shut. Her hands shook as she tried to call the police again, but before she could dial, her phone buzzed with another message. "You don't remember, but I do." A video followed. Emily hesitated before tapping play. The screen filled with static, then resolved into grainy footage. A younger version of herself stood in a dimly lit parking lot. She was laughing, talking to someone just outside the frame. The camera shifted and a man came into view. David Calloway. Emily's stomach twisted. She still didn't recognize him, but the way she smiled at him, leaned in. It was clear they knew each other. In the video, David stepped closer. The camera wobbled as if whoever filmed was trying to stay hidden. Then suddenly the screen shook violently. A struggle. A hand, the younger Emily's, clamped over David's mouth. Muffled screams. A sickening thud. The video ended. Emily dropped the phone. Her mind reeled. This had to be fake. A deep fake? A cruel prank? Another message appeared. "I came back for you." Emily's heart pounded. Her gaze darted to the front door. Then the window. He wasn't outside. He was inside. A floorboard creaked behind her. Slowly she turned. The dim light from her phone cast long shadows across the room. In the doorway, a figure stood watching. David Calloway. But something was wrong about him. His eyes were lifeless, his skin pallid, as if he had been underground for years. And the smell, damp earth, decay. "You forgot me," he said, voice hollow. "But I never forgot you." Emily stumbled back. "This isn't real." He stepped closer. "You left me there, buried, alone." Her memories screamed for an answer. Had she done this? No, she couldn't have. Could she? He moved with unnatural speed. Cold fingers wrapped around her wrist. The touch was real, solid. "I forgive you," he said softly, "but you need to remember." Emily's vision swam, a flood of images. That night, the parking lot, the argument, the way she had pushed him, the way his head hit the pavement, the hurried, panicked breath as she dug, dirt caking her hands. And then, nothing. She had forgotten. David leaned in, his breath like damp soil. "Let's finish this." Darkness swallowed the room. The next morning, Emily's apartment was quiet. The police, responding to another distressed call from her neighbor, found the door ajar. Inside, the place was untouched. No signs of struggle, no blood, no Emily. Her phone lay on the floor, the screen still on. A single message glowed on the display. "Welcome back, Emily.